Hello everyone, I'm Sierra.
I'm Brayden.
And this is
We're Bonding.
Damn It, a podcast where we're going to watch an episode of The Walking Dead and then talk about it. So what we wanted to do today was just introduce ourselves, our show, and then talk about what we hope that you can take away from all of our gabbing. Bray, why don't you start?
I like playing football, basketball, wrestling, baseball, and
golf.
When I first started watching The Walking Dead, it's so I can overcome my fears. And then I told Mom, hey, I had this nightmare about zombies. Then she showed me The Walking Dead. Then I'm like, oh, I like this. And we kept on watching it over these past
like 5-6 months.
Yeah, because we wanted to take pauses because
sports.
Yeah.
And I am Brayden's mom. A little bit of information about me is just that I love reading books. I like to listen to podcasts. I love listening to music. I even listen to audiobooks. And so when I started watching The Walking Dead, it actually wasn't even when it originally came out. It was a couple years later doing like for a rewatch. I think they were prepping for a new season to come out, and when I watched it, I was so surprised. I was blown away. Like the show really hooked me in. And Brayden, when you came to me saying that you wanted to do a podcast, I was really excited because doing a podcast is something that I've wanted to do for years. I think since like 2022. So what are some of your thoughts on podcasts?
So, I saw it on different platforms like YouTube and TikTok, and I'm like, I like this. So
That's what made you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Let me think. So for me, podcast really helps me feel like I was connecting to more people. Like when I first started listening to podcasts, it was shortly after the pandemic, and I really was in a really isolated area or point in my life. You know, I was going through job changes. I had a boss I really didn't like. I was dealing with struggling trying to get the help that you needed in school with like your speech and everything. And podcast really kind of helps keep me grounded.
Not speech anymore because I graduated.
I know, thank goodness. Now that you know a little bit about us, we wanted to talk to you about how often we're going to put out episodes. So after this first initial batch of episodes, we are going to post one video a week. And then eventually we're going to start doing a bonus episode once a month. And when do you think that should start?
March.
Okay, March. That way we can really kind of dive through the nuances of starting a podcast and all of the issues that come up. Because we haven't had any of those yet. Yeah, we have a lot. So like one of the reasons that we want to do a bonus episode is just to kind of break up some of the heaviness that, comes along with The Walking Dead. Bonus episodes are going to kind of stay in this horror realm. Maybe like horror comedy, if that's really a thing. And yeah, we hope that you guys enjoy those when they start coming out. Today, the plan is really to have like a pre-episode. Originally, I was going to try and pack in some like information before we started talking about the episode, but there's a lot of information, like a lot. So the next episode is really going to be over the first episode of The Walking Dead, Days Gone By. And then let's kind of get a sense of what 2010 was all about. You were not even alive.
It was 3 years, so I'd be...
Yeah, 3 years until you were born.
Yeah.
I will really try to give you as much information about 2010 as I can. If I can even remember it. So the first iPad was launched in the United States. Instagram came out.
The United States.
Instagram came out in the month of October, just like The Walking Dead. But I didn't get one for a few more years. It was probably like 5 more years, to be honest. MySpace was dying and Facebook was thriving. Everyone was going to that more simplistic look And thank goodness, because no one can find those MySpace pictures anymore. And if I remember right, non-smartphones were still easily accessible, like the flip phones. But the most popular phones of that year were the iPhone 4, Samsung Galaxy S, and the Motorola Droid X. I'm pretty certain that I had the Droid.
What are those?
So they're basically just like current smartphones, just not as smart, not as big, but kind of thicker.
Big.
No, not that thick.
I like the brick phones.
No, not a brick phone. That was from the 90s.
1995. I don't know.
Like 98. I'm not really sure either. So I would be lying if I said that technology wasn't already booming in 2010, but it wasn't quite to the extreme level as it is today. Ecologically or environmentally, catastrophes were happening all around the globe as well. Like in the Gulf of Mexico,
Flash America.
the Deepwater Horizon rig exploded, spilling oil by the ton into the Gulf, and that ended up killing 11 workers. And it took 5 months to contain. And a whole bunch of wildlife and ducks and everything were covered in oil, which really helped launch Dawn Dish Soap's animal campaign. My goodness, child! Which is why that they have that duck on the bottle now. Another catastrophe was in the country of Chile. Chile had a mine cave in, and this was the San Jose Copper and Gold mine. This trapped 33 workers for 69 days. Thankfully, all 33 workers were rescued and no loss of life occurred during that event. So yeah, a lot happened, and I didn't even cover most of it because I probably only remember like a tenth of it all. Like I said, I was a senior in high school. I was driving a 1985 Buick Somerset. Yes, it was back then and currently. I called that car Rusty for a reason. I had a pay per minute phone that I had to pay for myself. I was in the National Guard, but I hadn't left for basic or AIT yet. I was working at Arby's if I wasn't at school, but I was taking college classes instead of going to high school, which was great. And I could go on and on about the style at the time. I can't even tell you how many pairs of ballet flats I owned. It was a lot.
Let me guess. Billions.
It feels like another world, and it also feels like it was just 3 years ago. So I would say The Walking Dead has a following like no other TV show in history. Robert Kirkman says he considered the idea of Walking Dead a Walking Dead television series, but he never actively pursued it. He said that he certainly wanted it to happen, just because I knew it would be good for the book. I'm certainly not against adaptations like some creators. So when Frank Darabont became interested in adapting the comic book for television, Kirkman said he was extremely flattered and that Darabont definitely cares about the original source material. Certain aspects of the show, like the gore aspect, was kind of reserved for like platforms or add-ons. Back then they would have been like an add-on to your basic cable service. They were reserved for things like that, like HBO. They had a show called True Bloods or Blue Bloods, something like that. And that was a vampire show back then. But something like this would have been on that. And I didn't even have HBO when I was living at Dad's on Dish Network.
Apple.
Yes. So I think that this show really helped redefine the limits of television topics, launching walkers into homes all across the world. The greatest thing about this show is that within 10 months of originally airing, this show was launched in 120 countries.
And there's 195 countries.
That's pretty cool. The first episode aired in the United States on October 31st, 2010, cementing itself into the creepy crawly horror era. As most everyone knows, this show was created as an adaptation of the comic books written by Robert Kirkman that started to be published in 2003. He was able to join as an executive producer for the show. Frank Darabont was the main producer who wrote the pilot episode. Other writers for the first season would include Charles E. Eagley, Adam Fierro, and Glenn Mazzaro. Mazera. My goodness. Okay. All of whom he had worked with previously while directing episodes of The Shield. Jack Lojudici also joined the writing team. You want to know something cool about him?
What?
He is from Ohio. So they were all part of the writing team that helped write episodes 2 through 6. And then I would say the casting of the original characters, like Rick, Lori, Shane, all of them, as
Shane
well.
never remember that his and her. He never.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think that the casting of the original characters, the continuation of creating the new comics and books. There's a whole book series over the governor that I'm going to read before we get to that season.
Oh no, I don't like him.
I know. So yes, all of that really helped create the Walking Dead universe as into what it is today. The first season is the shortest season in the whole show. And like originally I thought that there was 10 episodes in this first season, but there's really only 6. And I think that maybe because there was so much movement and there's so much information being thrown at you that it can be hard to keep up with, which is probably why I thought it was longer than it is. I read somewhere on some website, I don't even remember which website it is, that they felt like watching each episode of The Walking Dead for this first season was like watching 6 mini movies. And then while researching, what?
6 mini.
Yeah, like when when you're going to the movie, that movie is its own story. So each of these episodes were their own story. And I think that is what that author meant. Does that make sense? Okay. So while researching this season, I found the Talking Dead podcast, and their archives have been a really big asset for me trying to find some of this pre-season information. The hardest part is just navigating through their archives because you just have to scroll all the way back to 2009-10. Wikipedia has also been a super helpful resource for me, but we do have to be careful when we're looking at that website because they have information about the comic books and the TV show. So yeah, diving back into the show. The pilot episode was ordered, meaning the green light was given to produce the first episode in January of 2000. I believe that the strength of the source material convinced AMC to pick up this show. I'm not AMC. That's the TV channel that aired the show from 2010 all the way through current adaptations, like all of the spin-offs, all on AMC. So I don't really know how many pages normal pilot episodes are, but for this show it was 60 pages. And I mean, you think that the script is long, and it's 9.
I thought it had 10. So you had 10 pages, then you deleted one.
Yeah, I was able to edit it down just to help out a little bit. So one thing that is kind of cool is they split this pilot episode script into 2 so that they could give more life into the characters and all of the development to slow the narrative down. And I really thought that that was a smart idea, especially with how many characters and how many different scenes there are just in the first 2 episodes alone. And just like how much detail this show packs in. Like I haven't even mentioned the Walker school that all of the extras and actors had to go through in order to get that walk or that stumble, I don't know, and that growl down. So by the month of April, certain casting selections, my goodness, I couldn't think of that word, they were being released to the public, such as Andrew Lincoln and John Bernthal.
One of them were
Rick
and Shane.
Yes. So Andrew had been in many works before The Walking Dead, such as Love Actually and Afterlife. These were more British shows and movies. What?
Nothing.
He has a new show out called Cold Water that came out towards the end of last year, I think, and that can be watched on Paramount Plus. John Bernthal started out dominating the Broadway sector with his own Broadway company. I can't even pretend to say that first word, but it's like Fovea Floods, something like that. But Google really credits his time on The Walking Dead as what has launched his career into what it is now. So he just had that series released on Netflix called His and Hers, my bad.
His and Hers.
Yep. And did you know that John almost got Rick? He was almost cast as Rick.
But he didn't. But
yeah. Well, the casting directors felt like John was a better fit for Shane. And they continued to look for who was going to play Rick. So Shane was cast before Rick. And then shortly after Lincoln secured the role of Rick, my gosh, that was hard. After Lincoln secured the role of Rick, Lori was announced to be Sarah Wayne Callies. That's just who plays Lori. Norman Reedus actually tried out for the role of Merrill, but they created a whole role for him, Daryl. And I think that was a very successful choice. Like creating a whole different person that was technically not part of the comic books at all. I mean, he has his own show out. Like he has a spin-off.
Like How to Face the Walking Dead.
No, it's like Daryl and Carol, I think. I don't remember what it's called. I'm sorry, don't cancel us for that because we haven't even we haven't watched any of the spin-offs because we want to get through all of this first and then we can move on to one of the spin-offs if we want.
What do you mean cancel us?
Because we don't know everything. Okay, so let's see here. Production for the first episode started in May of 2010. Filming took place in and around Atlanta, Georgia, with a 16 millimeter film. Do you know why?
So they can get staticky, like, yeah.
Yeah, that staticky image that really kind of like
makes it look real.
Yes, it really helped make that Walker makeup look more realistic and less plasticky, I think. And with the remaining 5 episodes, those were all produced starting in the month of June. So just a few weeks later, a few clips from that pilot episode were played at the San Diego Comic-Con. And I think that's just crazy. They were able to edit things for Comic-Con specifically for The Walking Dead. And I think that there was a whole panel where they were able to talk to the director of the show just to get some more insight on all of that. Other promotional events outside of Comic-Con, were zombie invasions of some bigger cities like Washington, D.C. and New York City. And I think that might have been a bit of foreshadowing. The website had a motion picture version of the original comic book voiced by Phil Lamar. I haven't seen it, but I'm going to continue to look for it. I actually saw something, but I don't think it was of the original comic book episode. It's one for later. I saw that yesterday, I think. And then there's also a documentary about how they created the first episode. I've seen bits and pieces of that on YouTube as well, but I haven't found the whole thing. I'm going to continue to look for that. And I don't know if it's just my inability to research well, 15 plus years outside of high school, or if this information has been archived. I'm going to continue to look for cast and crew interviews and then hopefully talk about that on this show too. Show executive producer Robert Kirkman remarked on the similarities between the actors and the comic's original character drawings. I have some issues trying to follow who's who in the comic books, but I've never really read comic books before, so that could just be a me thing. Darabont insisted that the series would closely reflect the development of the comics. He also stated that the path is a very strong template, but we're going to take every interesting detour we feel like taking. As long as we're staying on the path of what Robert has done, I don't see any reason not to. If they have the patience, we will eventually catch up to what Robert is doing. And let's just talk about how successful this show really was. All of the promotional attempts really helped out. AMC reported 5.35 million people tuning in for its debut episode.
How much did they used to have first?
I don't know how many viewership happened on like other pilot episodes or other like season premieres on AMC, but this one was a record-breaking show for them.
It went boom!
Yes, it exploded.
Oh, you got the face with my helmet.
In November of 2010, it was picked up for a second season, which is something I find incredible. I always thought that a show would be released, and then after the final episode of that season was put out, like the show would go in front of a board to see if it was successful enough to be picked up for a next season.
And it went ching.
Yeah, I got the green light. Let's see here. My plan is to do a preseason episode before each new season so that we can get some of like the information leading up to filming and all of that out of the way before we dive in. And I would like to say the first season finale received 6 million views. So it started out at 5.35 and it jumped all the way to 6 million views in 6 short weeks. It had the most watched basic cable series. I don't know if it's like in history or just for that year.
Can't do the math in my head.
In the United Kingdom, it premiered 1 week later. So the United States, it came out on October 31st. In the UK, it came out on November 5th. And that would have been on the digital channel FX with almost double. Like this kind of helps you get an idea of what it might have been like on AMC. So FX reported that it had double the amount of views for any other show on FX for that week. So twice as many people tuned in to the premiere episode of The Walking Dead. Okay. So Darabont, which is the main executive producer, he says that he has been a zombie fan forever. Like, I think the first time he saw anything about zombies was George A. Romero's 1968 film, Night of the Living Dead. And that would have been when he was a teen. What?
I want to think where he was a teenager or...
Yeah. He watched it when he was a teenager. And let's see here. Darabont walked into a comic book store in Burbank and he saw The Walking Dead on the shelf. That was in 2005. He grabbed it and he immediately started pursuing the rights to try to make this into a television series. He thought it would make a great TV show and he loved the idea of an extended, ongoing, sterilized, dramatic presentation set in a zombie apocalyptic setting. He describes the process of developing the series and getting it set up at a network as 4 years of frustration. It took him 4 years for this to be picked up. I mean, if you think about it, he got the original comic book in 2005 and the green light wasn't given until January of 2010. So it took him a while. He had a lot of dedication to get this show launched. Let's see here. He remembers running into Gail Ann Hurd, who was working for AMC, and she stated that, wow, I really love this pilot you wrote. What are you doing with it? And he pretty much just told her that he's been trying to set up forever, and she said AMC might be able to take this. So she took it, she showed it to whoever she needed to show it to, and then bam, they were interested just like that. And he has to credit Gail her insight into marrying the material and the buyer. So he was just putting it together. And that was all because of Gail. After airing, Simon Abrams from Slant Magazine says, "To say that Darabont has kicked his series off with a bang would be a serious understatement. He has fashioned a fully realized alternate reality, and it's a thrilling thing to experience." The American Film Institute stated, "The Walking Dead feeds our hunger for a new take on a classic genre. Zombies have long breathed life into the horror of human nature in an extreme state, but here, Frank Darabont smashes the boundaries of terror on television. The Walking Dead also understands the power of silence, as a slowly turning doorknob may reveal our deepest fear, the loss of our own humanity." So humanity is a consistent theme throughout this show. You know, just how far can you push it without losing your humanity? This season, the first season, was nominated for a lot of awards on many different award show platforms.
Like, TV award, AMC award, HBO award.
No. Well, I mean, you've got the Golden Globes. They were nominated on the Golden Globes. They were nominated at the TCA Awards.
What is TCA?
I don't know.
I thought you were supposed to know.
Well, I don't know everything. They were also nominated at the Writers Guild of America. In addition, the pilot episode won Best Edited 1 Hour Series for Commercial Television, and that would have been at the American Cinema Editors Eddie Awards. Guts also won an award for sound editing. That was the second episode. And then obviously nominations for Best Actor was like Andrew Lincoln. Best Actress was Sarah Wayne Callies. Best Supporting Actor was Stephen Ewan. That's Glenn. What? Best Supporting Actress is Laurie Holden. Best Guest Star Role in Television went to Noah Emmerich. And at the third Primetime Creative Arts Emmy Awards, Days Gone By won Outstanding Prosthetic Makeup for a series, miniseries, movie, or special, and was nominated for Outstanding Sound Editing for a series and outstanding special visual effects. Frank Darabont was also nominated for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in a Dramatic Series for his work in Days Gone By. You little stinker. So I actually saw this somewhere else, but I thought it was really funny. So later in the season, when we meet Meryl for the first time, I don't know if it's for the first time, like for his first scene or not, but when we meet Meryl, the scene where he is shooting his gun off on the rooftop, that actually caused some people to think that Michael Rooker was a sniper, and they called the police on him.
Really?
Yes. So apparently the fact that filming was being done in the area was not as well known as it should have been, and a SWAT team showed up. Fortunately, no one was arrested, and there are actually some other bloopers seen even in the show while we're watching it. So you know the scene where Rick, he comes into Atlanta and he sees like that horde when he's on his horse? In the background, you can actually see someone drinking from a water bottle. Yeah, I'll try to point it out when we watch it again. And I really kind of wonder what other bloopers or funny things everyone else was able to see in the first season. And with that being said...
That's funny. Just let me get a drink. Oh no!
Right? Exactly. And with that being said, we want to hear from you. If you were ever a walker, saw filming happening, met a cast or crew member, or just want to say hi, email us at we'rebondingdammit@gmail.com and join us next time when we cover Season 1, Episode 1, Days Gone By.
Stay safe and
Don't get bit. Bye.